Welcome back to Community Builders, the podcast for people who believe that community building is the best business model for your soul. Today we've got a bit of a different podcast. We've got Giles here, and he's a little bit different because he's not actually building a community. He's built an amazing personal brand over the past couple of years. Well, Chris, you'll do better at telling your story than I will, but I'm going to give you a nice little introduction anyway. I know that you left as a senior in a senior advertising role. You left the salary, the title, the fancy trips, and the lifestyle that maybe from Instagram looked like you were absolutely living it. On the other side of the world, you're originally from Melbourne, Australia, and you went over to London. Eventually, you ended up deciding to leave all that behind, quit, build, and start from scratch. You've grown to, I think, 18,500 followers on Instagram with on the personal brand side of things. And then even more recently, I'm not sure. You can give me the timelines later on. You've transitioned into one-to-one coaching and group coaching as well. A lot of people have the followers and then never make that and never really monetize them. And it's interesting for me, especially with your story, is that you have 18,000 followers, which by a lot of accounts wouldn't be seen as being a massive account, but you've monetized your account. You've achieved your own freedom. Well, you're at least well on the way, I would say. But anyway, I'm rambling. Chris, how's it going?
Very good. Thanks for having me, Tom. I feel like you've covered my whole life story just in those 60
Need to do the
seconds. So we can wrap up the pub now.
Yeah, exactly. But how about you introduce yourself a little bit? Because I think, I got the gist from your Instagram and that sort of stuff, but it's way better to hear it from the man himself. So yeah, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in Australia. I mean, yeah, for most of my life, and I guess I got to a point, I'd say, in my early 20s, and it was during COVID,
Hmm.
where I felt like I needed a shake up, and I felt like the life I was living in Melbourne uh, was too insular. I wasn't broadening my perspective enough,
Hmm.
and so I worked in advertising. Throughout my career, I've been working in digital advertising, and just as COVID ended, there came an opportunity for me to move to London with the company I was working for. So I did a transfer over and I went and lived in London alone for 3 years. And so
Hmm.
that was the beginning of my like big leap of taking risks and trying something new. And within those 3 years, like I actually had such an amazing experience. Like my career was amazing. I actually loved my 9 to 5. I made a post about this yesterday as well, actually, about how I used to defend when people would rubbish the 9 to 5 because I had such a great experience. I was working in like an advertising environment. It was very social, very fun. I was going on work trips. It wasn't like your typical, sit in a cubicle for 8 hours and shut up. So I
Hmm.
loved it. It was really great. And then as I was living that lifestyle and uh, traveling around Europe, I realized that this was something that I didn't necessarily feel like I had earned, or it wasn't something that I owned. Instead, I was actually just borrowing that from the company that I worked for. And so what that then led me to do is like think, okay, like I want to start building something of my own. And the only way I knew to do that was to create content. And so I started just posting content, just experimenting. I had no idea what direction it would take, and I just started like posting about my journey in London as an Aussie abroad. I did 75 hard, and I posted that journey as well. And as I got to the end of my 3 year journey,
Hmm.
I decided I had to decide whether I would stay on for 3 years or for another 3 years or quit. And I decided the latter. I decided to quit, go traveling without any backup plan, and just document the journey. And I went like very heavily into content creation and particularly storytelling, which we can go into a little bit further,
Hmm.
because that's essentially a key thing that's kind of formed what I do now. And so grew a following, all was really great. Came back to Australia, and then essentially 12 months later, I've been able to build my own business, take on clients, and I'm coaching other people to, I guess, go on a similar journey that I've gone on, which is you are in a 9 to 5, you might feel stuck and unfulfilled, and how
Hmm.
you can build a personal brand alongside that eventually allows you to monetize off that and leave your 9 to 5 as well. So that just gives a little bit of a roadmap, bit of a timeline of the past 5 years, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. No, super interesting. So yes, it's been a 5-year journey since you quit, or since that you moved to London.
Since I moved to London.
Okay, okay. So it's been 5 years since. So it's 3 years in London, kind of doing the 9-5, and then kind of
Mm.
like exploring outside of that for the past 2 years.
The past 1 year. Past
Okay.
1 year. So yeah, there was like a period before I moved to London, about a year when I was in Melbourne. I was still
Yeah.
working advertising, but I kind of felt unfulfilled. I was locked down by COVID as well, which made me feel quite restricted.
Yeah.
And then yeah, did 3 years in London, and then it's been officially, like as of last week, 1 year since I left my job in London to me going full time on myself.
Nice. Congratulations.
Thank
And
you.
so, wait, so you were saying that when you were in London, you said something along the lines of you didn't feel like you'd earned it. Like, I want to go more into kind of that feeling, like, because for me, that's when you describe it from the outside, it's like it sounds like you did earn it because you were the one, nobody else got you that job. You know what I mean? Like, you're the one that decided to take the leap and even go to London in the first place. So why did you feel like you didn't earn earn it?
Initially, I definitely felt like I deserved everything that was coming my way, but
Yeah.
it got to a point where it felt too good to be true. The bougie lunches that I was going on with clients, the work trips that were all paid for, the nice hotels, like that was all provided by the company that I worked for.
Hmm.
And there was a period where I was posting a lot of that on Instagram, and a lot of my friends back home were probably seeing that, like, Chris is living the dream, like he's actually living like such a great life. Like, where how can you go further up from here, right? But what people, I guess, didn't see was the pressure of being in a corporate environment, the
Hmm.
stress, having to answer to other people,
Yeah.
not being able to make the decisions to take holidays when you wanted to. It was always on your boss's terms, or, someone else was making that decision for you. And so this dream life that it kind of looked like it was on Instagram was actually that's why I call it a borrowed life, because ultimately it was all because of the company that I worked for. And when I stripped that back and I thought, okay, like let's say I got sacked tomorrow, what would be left? I wouldn't have any of these luxuries anymore. And it
Mm.
kind of made me feel a little bit uneasy. And as I projected probably 5, 10 years into the future, and I looked to people in the corporate environment that were ahead of me, I was like, I'm not really sure I want to go down that path. They didn't look free. They didn't look they didn't look fulfilled. If anything, they just looked more stressed. They were weighed down more by the extra responsibility. And so working for promotions and pay rises to try and get there actually didn't seem like a good trade.
Yeah.
So that's what led me to eventually transitioning off the corporate
Yeah.
life.
I think that's such a good tip, like just for anyone listening as well, in terms of, okay, if you're working towards something, you should definitely look and try and find the people who have what you're working towards. Or even if you're not actively working towards something or trying to grow towards something, if you're in a job and you're not even potentially thinking about like what the future holds for you, like look at the person in the position above you or look at the person a couple of positions
Mm,
and like, do you want that life? Because ultimately, if you're not thinking about it, or if you're in the role that you're in right now, you're either staying where you are or you're going towards that. You know. And so I had the same thing in London as well. I actually lived in London for a year. Uh,
okay.
I moved to Madrid a long time ago, and I ended up moving to London for because I thought my time in Madrid was over. I kind of figured
Mm,
that there was no career progression. This was like 6, 7 years ago now. Just this was before COVID,
okay.
and Madrid's changed a lot in the last 10 years, and it's definitely got better from a career perspective as well. But at that time, it just felt like I was like there was only a few English people in Madrid, and I was like, is my life really here? And it's not very international,
Mm,
it's insular. No career progression. I had a boss who was kind of above me and just had no intention of like moving or me going around him or anything like that. So to
mm,
the point where I went to London and I was working with a couple of people in London, basically. I had two bosses, like my boss and my boss's boss. And both of them, I'd look at them and think, God, that is so not the life that I want when I'm
mm.
your age. Like, to be honest, like, to being completely frank, neither of them were particularly good people. Like, and I mean, my colleagues were amazing, but the two bosses, neither of them were particularly good people. Like, successful and good at what they did, yeah. But man, I was just like, I never want to be that. And yeah, it
Mm,
speaks exactly what you were saying there of the kind of more that you have it's the sunk cost fallacy, right? where you think you put in more and more into it. It's like, God, I've worked so long for this marketing agency, and now they put me to
Mm,
London. Blah blah. Blah. There's obviously I'm going on all these nice trips. I'm building towards something, but you're completely right. Like if they fire you, you get a redundancy package probably, depending on how long you've
mm.
been there for. But apart from that, you haven't got much. You haven't got much else.
And they can fire you tomorrow. Like it's ultimately, especially because I worked in, it was like one of the big four media agencies. So I was this very, very small cog in
Yeah,
the wheel, and like you realize how easily you can be replaced.
yeah,
No matter how much people like your boss or your boss's boss will tell you, you mean a lot to us. Thank you so much. They'll try and motivate you in whatever ways possible.
yeah,
But I just got this sense that the like the work and the effort that I was putting into advancing my career, I could put into my own thing.
yeah.
And that's what I was then starting to envision for my future.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's true, and that's the thing as well. Like people take that. I don't even think it's necessarily a bad thing because it's at the end of the day, it's business. The fact that they can fire you tomorrow, it's not. It's a business decision. Oftentimes, it's not really a personal decision. You know what I mean? And that's just kind of
Mm,
the nature of the game. But I think people make the mistake of thinking that they're like more valued than they are. At the bottom line is the bottom line. You know what I mean? And it's that if your job is no longer needed, if you are no longer needed essentially. And fair enough,
mm.
sometimes companies are trying to shuffle you around and do this sort of stuff, but it's just the way it goes at the end of the day. And I think
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
it's I think that's okay because that is the world of business. But I think people shouldn't make the mistake of thinking that like I'm irreplaceable or whatever and that sort of thing. But okay, so
yeah.
let's go back. So you said that so a year ago now, almost to the day, you decided to quit. So you handed in. What was that experience like? You went and handed in your resignation, or how did that part work? What was the emotion?
Honestly, I felt like I was so ready. It wasn't a difficult decision to make. And I think because subconsciously, 9 months before that, I was building my personal brand in the background. I was creating content. I joined the Creator Club. Maybe we can talk about the Creator Club a little bit later, but that was definitely pivotal to me making that transition as well. Because having joined that community, I was creating content. I was building my personal brand, and I was also surrounded by so many other people in that community who were already building their own businesses and working for themselves. So there was that motivation there. And like, at least I had some reference points to be like, I'm not just going to go out on my own and be like completely in the dark about what's next. Like, I had some people to refer to be like, right, like, this is what I should aim towards. And so through that 9 period, I was creating content, building my personal brand, like building a bit of a following. And then my visa came to an end. So when you're
Mhm,
an Aussie, you do a 3 year visa. It's called a youth mobility visa. And then you get the decision. Well, I had the decision to extend for another 3 years. So the
mhm,
company that I was working for were going to sponsor me for another 3 years. And I just thought, do I really want to be locked into one London for 3 years, but also into a corporate job? And both of them I didn't want to do. Like I think I kind of got sick of London after 3 years,
mhm,
as great as it was. And then the corporate environment, I was like, right, I'm ready to leave. And I think it just came at a perfect time to be like, okay, like, let's just take a risk, go out on my own, and then see what happens. Worst comes to worst, I go back to Australia, go back into the corporate world, and find a job in advertising again, which actually wasn't a bad prospect. I was like, I wouldn't mind it. Um, and so I quit in April last year.
mhm,
I went traveling for 3 to 4 months. And during those 3 to 4 months, I pretty much just said to myself, "Look, like, I'm not working right now, so I'm gonna treat content like my full-time job."
yeah,
So, I literally just started documenting my journey more seriously, like, rather than just creating the odd reel here and there. I was like, "Okay, like, I need to be creating content every day or journaling every day or, like, doing something that's moving me forward towards, building my personal brand, but just, like, showcasing my journey more authentically." And I remember, like, literally the week after I quit my job, I
mhm,
posted my first, reel where I did more like storytelling. It was like a verbal storytelling reel for about 60 seconds, just explaining my story, what I did up until leaving London and what the journey that I'm about to go on now.
mhm,
And I remember posting it, and within 2, 3 minutes, all these new followers started coming in, people commenting, sharing, and it was my first post that truly went viral.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, gosh, if this isn't a sign that I've made the right choice, then
Yeah.
I don't know what is. And so that was kind of the beginning of me really going all in on my personal brand and documenting the journey while I was traveling.
Okay. And when that post went viral, so I've had a couple of posts go viral as well. And did you get like the good side and the bad side? Did you get loads of hate coming as well, or was it all pretty positive?
Oh, you, yeah, you're going to get hate comments. It was predominantly positive
Okay, that's nice.
because I spoke about all of the things. Like I was quite vulnerable
Yeah.
in my post. It was very much about the struggles, my search for more, and everything like that.
Yeah.
But you get the odd people who were like, "Oh, here we go, another influencer who's quit his
Yeah.
job to go traveling to try and become a content creator."
Yeah.
Uh, but what I've learned is the more hate comments you get, kind of a sign you're doing a good thing, or
Yeah.
you're reaching the masses.
Yeah. For me, um, God, like, because I do content, a lot of the content I do is rooted in Spain, and there's big,
Mm,
just to give you an idea, maybe you don't know, there's big, like, there's a lot of problems between locals and foreigners basically in Spain. So what my business does is like the idea of Giles de Mierda, which is the name of my business, is to kind of bring together the locals and the foreigners. And like we have a lot of locals that come, but to be honest, a lot of the locals that come are kind of more internationally minded anyway. We don't do as good of a job as I'd like at bringing locals that have never left Spain, because they're the
mm,
kind of, not all of them, of course, 'cause some are more open minded, but there's basically like problems with like people complain that foreigners are to blame for gentrification. People complain that foreigners are to blame because they pay less tax. There's lots of different reasons. Basically,
okay.
inflation is all these problems. Like foreigners, although they're partially responsible, they get basically the full blame. So when I'm posting videos that are going viral, people are like, "Don't advertise Spain anymore." I get so much hate. It's insane. On all my reels, I get so much hate. And then like every region of Spain has its own thing. So the Canary Islands, I did an adventure down in the Canary Islands where I took my skateboard
Yeah.
and I skated through it. I called it Skate the A. Like 3 weeks, super fun. And like the Canary Islands, I hadn't realized before I went there, like they're even more because they have major over tourism problems. So there's like this
Mm,
little sector, like a cult. There's a cult of like Canarians who hate foreigners. So I was doing,
really?
they were like threatening me and stuff. They were like like it took it to another level. Like I was getting DMs of threats. They have all these like private Instagrams where they share it, and you just, if they share it in this private Instagram, you'll just get like hundreds of hate comments. I was like, damn. But like you said as well, it's never affected me. I've never minded pissing people off as long as I'm being true
Mm,
to myself and I'm not trying to intentionally hurt people or rage bait people. You know what I mean? I'm being
mm,
to myself. If I say I don't like Spanish food that much, it's because I actually think it's pretty overrated. It's not because I'm trying to get people commenting. I know that it will
mm.
get commenting as well, but it's just one of those things where you have to have a thick skin, right?
And I think as well, you're going after a particular audience.
Yeah.
You're not trying to go after everyone. So would you say that your target audience are foreigners,
Um,
or
it
you're
depends.
trying to attract a
It,
tourism market?
Tourists, no, but probably it's foreigners or Spanish people that have lived, that at some point have lived outside of Spain. Honestly, it's changed so much because I've been doing content now for like 4 years, and so I've done
Mm.
different things. Like I've done adventure style content where I don't know if you saw it. I took a skateboard and went from the north of Spain to the south of Spain. It was
I saw one of those videos. Yeah, yeah.
55 days just sleeping outside in hammocks and stuff. It was the best experience of my life. It was insane. I've got another one coming up soon in June. And so then I didn't really have my ICP. You know what I mean? I didn't have
Mm,
anyone in mind that I was making videos for. I was making them for me. But
mm,
the byproduct, because I was doing something that made me really, really happy, and that transmitted through the camera, you could see how like free I felt. This is my theory anyway. I attracted
mm,
loads of followers, loads of Spanish people, because I was speaking in Spanish as well to a lot of people that I've
mm.
met. I was telling a story every single day, and so I think now, like, I make content more for people who are internationally minded. At least they can be from anywhere, and they have some sort of interest in Spain, maybe moving to Spain, or maybe they lived in Spain before. You know, it's a bit, it's, as I say, it has definitely changed over time.
Mm.
who I make my
Yeah.
content.
But I think like the fact that you're speaking authentically and it's ultimately just like about yourself
Mhm.
is you're attracting an audience of like-minded people,
Yeah.
but in the reverse, you're repelling the wrong kind of audience and they're the kind of people who are probably giving you the hate comments. So
Yeah.
it's a sign. I think it's always a sign that you're doing the right thing, not for the fact that you're getting hate comments, but you're also attracting a specific audience or a specific person. Um, so yeah, it's interesting to observe.
And the hate will always be louder than the love as well. You know what I mean? When I go out in Madrid, and if someone because my content's so local, I don't really have followers from
Mm,
all over the world. Most of them are here in Madrid, or
mm,
like Spain somewhere. When I go out in Madrid, if somebody recognizes me, I've never had a bad interaction. It's always good. You know, it's always like, oh,
yeah,
Giles de Mierda, the guy from Giles de Mierda, how's it going? That sort of stuff. Or like, oh, I saw your Spain thing. So it's always
yeah,
nice. And then like most people never comment anything. It's like even me as well. I comment because now I'm a content creator, so I like to support people and stuff. But before, I was never commenting, and there's loads of creators that I've never commented anything on, and I
yeah.
still like them. And you got to think that's the way it works for you as well. There's probably loads of people that watch your videos. If you have 20,000
Mm,
people watch your video, you know, and you get probably like 20 to 40 comments. Like there's loads of people that are enjoying that video, and they're just kind of like going on about their day as well. So I always try and remember that as well.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so we went off track a little bit there. Let me go back to
That's
where
all
we were.
right.
No, but I wanted to ask you. I saw something you posted the other day. Is this kind of going into that inflection point now, the turning point of you said that you messaged your girlfriend. I saw in your post you messaged your girlfriend saying that you felt like you were wasting your time, like going to the pub after work, like you weren't living up to your true potential. Tell me a bit more about that.
Mm, that was the period where I was starting to question, like, where is my future heading here? Something about me just didn't feel right with the idea that I was too comfortable. Like I think I'd recently got a promotion, and it didn't really feel like how I thought it would feel. And I was coming home from work, and after work, I was sort of thinking, what now? Like I couldn't just switch off.
Yeah.
And usually other people can. Usually other people, they go to work, head to the pub, or, they'll go to work, shower, watch Netflix, and kind of wind down. But
Mhm.
I was like, I feel like I'm just wasting my potential here. I feel like there's something more that I could be doing. And so I didn't know what that would be at the time. Like I'd kind of like, yes, I knew people were doing content creation. I knew people were, investing or, the crypto and like all that kind of stuff. So I knew there were other things that I could have been doing along the side, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do. But I guess I was kind of dabbling with content creation anyway. Like when I first moved to London, I was posting content anyway, not like reels or anything like that, but it was more just like photos, holidays, the highlight reel, photo
Yeah.
dumps, everything like that. And I liked showing up online. And then it was when I came across Louis, who I'd been watching his YouTube videos for quite a while,
Okay.
and he started talking about the Creator Club. And so I reached out to Louis. I was like, "Hey, man, like I really resonate with everything you're saying. I'm keen to join." And then it was literally that transitional period. I think it was like a week after I said to my girlfriend that I felt like I could be doing more. A week later, Louis' Creator Club came up, and I joined. I joined his community, and so it was this weird, like, what do you call it? When
Serendipity.
you're yeah, like it was like the law of attraction.
Mhm.
And I literally I joined the community, and then that was the start of me being like, okay, cool. Like he gave me a little bit of direction. I met a few of the other guys in the community. I was like, cool. Like I'm just going to experiment with creating content,
Mhm.
and it just gave me some sense of fulfillment early on that I was like, okay, like when I come home from work, I just have this little passion project that I get to work on, and I was literally just documenting things like I was doing 75 hard at the time. And so
Mhm.
every day I set myself the challenge to post something about 75 hard, like a gym workout or me reading and sharing my thoughts or how I'm going throughout the journey.
But
And it,
if I just interrupt you for 1 second, because for me now the story seems like before we were talking about more like you weren't sure, and then now it feels like when you started 75 hard. This is how I understand your story anyway. It feels
mm,
like when you kind of zoned in and you had direction, or am I misinterpreting that? Were you still a little bit like, I'm not sure what I'm doing still, or at this point were you like, okay, now I know?
There was so when I first joined the community, yeah, I didn't know what I was doing. And then, okay, yeah, you're right. I've kind of missed a little piece of the chapter, but I then went on one of the trips to Marbella with the guys from the Creator Club.
Yeah.
And that was when I first really saw that everyone was, everyone was working for themselves, doing their own thing, building something.
Mhm.
And that was when I thought, okay, when I get back to London, I'm going to start doing 75 hard. And so it was the reason I wanted to do 75 hard was one, I just wanted to dial in my fitness and build a better relationship with alcohol. I think when you live in London, it just becomes so normalized to like head to the pub, have a pint, like you just say yes all the time. And
Mhm.
so I wanted to break that cycle. And I thought, okay, if I'm going to take this content creation thing seriously, I may as well go all in on it and just see how far I can take it. And so when I got back from Marbella, I was back in London. I began 75 hard, and if for people who don't know what 75 hard is, it's essentially a challenge that you do for 75 days, and it's like you got to do a workout, you've got to drink. I think it's 3 to 4 liters a day. You need to stick to a diet. Uh, you need to read 10 pages, and I think there was one more. But I added an extra rule, which was I need to post a piece of content every day. And I just use it as like my own daily discipline to start getting into the practice of creating content regularly.
And with the and booze helps so much with that, right? Like, I've only ever done like a month here and a month there off the alcohol,
Mm.
but like you really see how much it can affect you. I mean, I love a beer. Like anyone that
Yeah.
knows will know that I love a beer. But it definitely is something that can get in the way of my life sometimes. In terms of like the weekend comes around, especially in Madrid, it's like everyone's out on
Mm.
the Thursdays, like
Oh,
can you
so
drink?
good in Madrid.
Like, oh man, it's so nice. Have you been to Madrid?
Yeah, I have. I
Right.
have once.
Yeah, you love.
Yeah.
It's a great city. It's a really, really great city, especially to live. I really love Madrid.
I
But yeah,
genuinely, when I was there a couple of years ago, I was saying to my girlfriend that that is probably another place I would consider living in.
yeah,
And I know
especially
you see it from a holiday perspective, but yeah, I had a good feeling from it.
yeah, it's super livable. It's really, really livable. There's lots of, as I said, it's not like it's not a touristy city like Barcelona, for example, where everybody's really transient. It's a great city for for people who actually wanna live here. But yeah, sorry to I kind of cut you off there, but yeah, I think alcohol is one of those things. As unfortunately, I hate to say it because I do love a beer. It is one of those things that if you cut it out, for me in the past when I've cut it out, it's definitely helped me kind of level up or just focus for a certain amount of time. If I'm off it for a month, it really helps me dial in and focus basically.
And I think that no alcohol actually played a big part in me quitting my job later because w it was probably after maybe the 2nd month of not drinking at all
Mm,
that I really started to reflect deeply on what I wanted,
mm.
and it was only during that period that I was like, "Okay, like, maybe I can take a bit more of a risk here, like, maybe I should back myself a little bit more and do something different." Whereas I think what alcohol can tend to do if you're drinking, even on the week like, you do it on a weekend every now and then, it's like you it ha sometimes you just sink back into this mode of comfort because you don't really feel like you can back yourself too much, and I think it just suppresses you, and so, I still drink now, like, I've gone back to reintroducing it, but I definitely think, like, if you're going through a period of change and transition, just taking a break from alcohol really can change just your outlook and, like, how much you can really back yourself.
Yeah, even on the micro scale, if you've got a hangover or even a slight hangover, you had some beers the day before, the following day I feel less motivated to do my projects, the stuff that I'm excited about, and if I'm hungover, I won't be excited about doing them. So it just shows, even on that
Uh,
level, small scale, it's like just the day to day actions that compound. It's like you don't do them and they don't compound. So it's I can definitely relate to that one. Um,
mm,
you feel less confident as well. You know, if you're a little bit hungover, as you say, you don't back yourself as much. It's
yeah,
it's a crazy one. But yeah, I've tried. I've never been more than a month off it. Would you recommend
okay.
it? 75 days.
I would definitely I actually think that the 2nd month
Yeah.
is the period where it's really pivotal. Like
Okay.
that 1st month, because I remember in the UK, everyone does dry Jan.
Yeah.
Like,
That's what I think.
anyone can kind of yeah. So you do dry Jan, but then you're itching for a beer on in Feb,
Yeah,
and so it's like it's not enough. I don't think. I think
yeah,
it takes you to really do a good like 2, maybe even 3 months to really feel the effects. And also like I made the effort to continue going to social events while not drinking, and
yeah,
so it was like kind of at that second, third month where I'd go to events and I wouldn't drink at all. And I truly felt comfortable in myself without drinking, which is probably something that I never did since I, started going out at the age of 18. So yeah,
yeah.
it was a really great experience.
I haven't been to. You touched on the creator club as well. I haven't been to any of the creator because I'm also in the creator club, and I haven't
Mm,
been. So that's how we got it. How we like know each other effectively. Um,
mm.
been to one of the trips, but I was thinking about actually. There's a Marbella trip coming up, and I was thinking about going to the Marbella trip. Were you alcohol free then, or was it? Is it? What was the?
No, no. That was just before I did 75 hard.
Okay.
And honestly, I think that was probably the one of the reasons why I chose to go sober. I just hated myself up after the trip. Not because like I had a great experience with everyone,
Yeah.
but Louis will tell you
Yeah.
like it's just a heavy, heavy session on the beers.
Okay. Okay.
And so yeah, we were all just yeah, we drank a lot. And so going back to London, I was kind of ready for it for a detox as well.
Okay, okay, okay. Cool. So let's fast forward a little bit now. So then
Mm,
you've done the Creator Club, you're feeling the motivation, you've started posting content, you've done 75 hard, and so and this by this point you've had this video that was the kind of sign,
mm,
the video as well, right? So like you
yeah.
had you mentioned before of everybody kind of that video going viral where you were discussing about your voiceovers, and then so
Mm.
from a strategy perspective at this point are you, not at this point, at this point in the story, are you, are you developing a style? Have you sat down and looked? Because I know now, for example, because you're a coach, your process is very defined. I would imagine you can tell me, I guess, but I know from the way that you speak and stuff that you've thought about the process of making content. Were you always like this? I guess the question is, even back then, or did it take a while to kind of develop the system that you have now?
Honestly, I developed a few systems,
Mm,
but I that reel that I referred to earlier about the one that went viral,
mhm,
I I do use that as a structure for storytelling
mhm,
for sure. And I'll give you some examples. So, uh, everyone talks about having a strong hook. It's like, yeah, like have a hook, but you got to understand what is your who's your ICP and like how can you create tension in someone when they hear that first bit of the hook. Uh, and then a bit more about like going into your backstory and talking about, uh, give a bit of context, set the scene, like who are you, like your age, like demographic, where are you from, like all these things are really key for your ICP to then identify with you. And then going into a bit of like conflict, a bit of tension, because people don't like to see you. People don't like to see you doing anything positive. They like to see the negatives, and I'm sure, like we said earlier, they'll comment on the negative thing. So I really made sure that I was really vulnerable early on in my scripts, and creating a lot of tension. And then you got to think like, okay, after you've reflected on that, then what's the lesson? Like, what is the lesson for your audience? And so I'd always make sure that as I ended my scripts, it had a lesson for my viewers to share, to save, to whatever. And I
mhm,
guess I kind of stuck to this structure as I was going on my travel journey, just whatever I encountered. Like during my time in Europe. And then I ended up going to Bali, spending some time in Bali. And I just would write down, I would journal regularly on my thoughts as I was progressing. And I just turn them into like a little bit of a script, 30, 45 seconds,
mhm.
do a voiceover, add some B roll of the content that I'd been filming and just post it. And I guess like that was the only real structure I had at the time.
Mhm.
And then as I started growing a following, uh, you know, people were asking me certain questions, and I used those questions as feedback for what people wanted to see moving forward. And
Mhm.
I guess that was kind of my strategy for like just continue to grow forward to be like, okay, like this is what people want to know more of. I'm going to answer their questions and help them in that way.
And what were those things?
A lot of it was like, uh, how like leaving a 9 to 5, like what's next? And I didn't really know what was next. And so my that literally formed the foundation of my documentation journey was I left my corporate job to build my dream life, and I'm sharing the journey with you. And so it's still like, I'm not even 100% of the way there now, although I now have an online business that I'm running. But um, my whole journey is literally showing people like how I went from stuck, unfulfilled in my corporate life
Mhm.
and the steps I'm taking now to building that dream life.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. And so with with that first script, for example, because I'll give you some context. So for the first video that I ever had go mega viral, I've posted that thing like 10 plus times in 10 different formats. I've written it out in carousels. I've done everything, and every time it just works. You know, it's like it's a magic script. I swear.
Really?
Used it so many times. I've remixed it. I've like posted it. I've posted it on trial reels. I posted it with different visuals. It just works. And like over the whole, I think if I added them all up, it's probably responsible for like at least 30,000 month followers. It's insane. One time it got 12,000 followers. One of the videos got 12,000 followers alone. It's
That's
insane.
crazy.
Yeah, and so when you have that viral video, do you take the same scripts and do you reuse them as well? I know we're talking a bit deeper on strategy, but people will be interested in the
Mm.
social media side of things, like actually the how, you know?
I tried to do what you did,
Yeah.
and a part of me rejected that idea that I would just copy the same thing. Like I didn't want to do that because I also had to think like, okay, eventually I want to monetize and I want to teach people what I'm doing. And
Mhm,
so I had to build systems of my own that could be adapted to everyone else's stories.
mhm,
And so if my success was just going to be built off one viral reel that I repurpose into different formats, I was like, okay, I can't like this isn't really going to help me, teach other people. And so no, I didn't do the same thing, but I essentially then started just documenting more of my life with that structure that I outlined before.
yeah,
Um, and it seemed to work. Like I seemed to have more reels doing well. And it was in that verbal storytelling type format. So speaking with a voiceover, using B roll
mhm.
and music and that kind of thing.
So I think I disagree with you. I think
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
I think it's one tool that you can use. So I think that if you're teaching people and if you're teaching people how to grow on their social media, this is one tool. You've got evidence here of something
Mm,
that that works, you know? So it's like when you find gold, you got to dig. You got to dig more. You got to explore. That's what I think anyway. You got to explore
mm,
the whole mine. You know what I mean? It's like once you find gold, which is what I believe I found with my viral script. It's like, okay, I'm going to use that in every single way, and I'm also going to remix it as well. I'm going to rewrite it, so I've rewritten it. I've tried to, as like what you said before. I've taken the
mm,
structure and I've applied it to different videos. It never does as well,
mm,
but of course, it still works too. And I just think it's one of the tools. Of course, you don't want to just base your whole Instagram on that and that same video over and over and over. But for me, it's just one of the tools that I've used, and I do it with every single video that goes viral. I've got a series with my nan, for example, where we make Spanish food or we just like try Spanish food and
mm.
stuff, and people go nuts for my nan. It's so annoying. They like her more
Yeah,
than me. And
yeah.
I repost those all the time as well.
Yeah, yeah. It's and one thing I do recommend this to my clients as well, that it's okay to repost the same thing later
Yeah,
down the track
yeah,
because you have a new audience as well. They may not have seen the
exactly.
content that you posted 4 months ago. So yeah, 100% post it again. Um, and you also have to be careful of what you go viral for,
Mhm.
because then you might shoehorn yourself into one top, like, your nan, for example. Then you might fall into the trap of thinking, people are following me just because they want to see my nan. They don't want to see me. Uh, so I've kind of been wary as well of like the things that I do and don't post.
Yeah.
Like you see people doing some stupid video with them dancing, with their pants on their head, and it's like, well, if that's what you want to be known for, well then great, like that's your strategy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, and it's true. I think it also speaks to like the fact that making content is a personal thing as well. Of course, there's a strategy part to it, and but then there's an artistic part to it, and also it's just personal. Like you said, like you're being vulnerable on the camera, and so your strategy. It's okay that your strategy might differ from mine a little bit as well, because people do like it's my life isn't the same as yours. My life isn't the same as the next person as well. The decisions that we make are different, and that's obviously going to reflect in like the way that you show up for work. And in this case, if work is content, then it's gonna be different. I think that's okay as well. There's not one way to score the goal. You know, there's many ways, infinite ways.
Yeah, 100%. And like a framework I typically give my clients is like before we start working together, I get them to map out their life, like
Hmm.
a whole series of questions about their background, their upbringing, key milestones throughout their life, key challenges, like big turning points, like all the key things that shaped their life, and start to tell their story from that lens. And what ends up happening is if you post content from that perspective, you have people following you who also see themselves in your shoes.
Hmm.
And so I think that's the best way if you're trying to monetize as well, is
Yeah,
having people who relate to you. Like if you're as relatable as possible through your own story, well then people will just follow you as a mirror of your own journey as well. And everyone's story is unique. Like it's your story, no one can copy. And so
mhm,
I always say to people like the best thing to do is just like map out clearly like everything about your life
yeah,
and then just talk about both like the highlights and the vulnerabilities throughout that journey.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, the more vulnerable you are, it's the more scary it can be for sure. But when people resonate with you, the better the payoff is 100%.
Mm. Did you find that with your content?
Um, yeah, so it's funny you talk about like shoehorning yourself, because I've worried about that in the past as well. Like, I don't want to be the guy that just speaks about Spain all the time, because like I lived in Spain, but it's not who I am, you know. And my
Mm,
best videos are the videos that are kind of Spain related for sure, because Spanish audience is just crazy. Like in terms of they either love Spain or they hate foreigners.
mhm, yeah.
And or maybe both. They're not mutually exclusive. Um, but I think, yeah, I don't know. I think that a lot of my videos now, the ones that I've never done like funny content so much. You know what I mean? Like
Mm,
maybe the odd thing here or there, but I haven't done that much funny content. And so the videos that always perform best for me are the ones where I'm like, it's the idea, you know. So it's not the format, it's not the whatever. It's always the idea that prevails. And so it's ones where I've got like an actual a unique idea, maybe something that I haven't heard people talking about before. And I know that you're doing like a series right now where you're making content without AI.
mm,
And I think that's important. At least I use AI for all my content pretty much to help me outline, but I never just post what AI gives me. I do like a brain dump into like Claude or whatever, or I
mm,
journal. You were saying before, I also journal too. Um, and that kind of helps me it helps me when I'm journaling regularly, which I'm not always good at, like, being super consistent. When I'm
mm.
journaling regularly, the same ideas tend to float to the top, and when those
Uh,
ideas top, like, on, like, a daily or weekly basis, I think, "Ah, maybe there's something here," or maybe I know something there's a hole, there's something missing that I'm not working on, or there's something that I should be working towards, or there's someone that I'm, like, neglect you know what I mean? Like, all these sort of things, and then from that, I'll often kind of get an idea like, oh, this potentially is a video, because it has more. There's, as you said before, exactly as you said, because I think that we kind of do some similar content in the sense with the
mm,
scripts and kind of the reflective stuff, and
mm,
it's, oh, maybe there's a lesson in here for somebody else, and so then I'll start brain dumping, kind of fleshing out the thought a little bit, and then yeah, and those videos always do the best for me, because I think they're probably the most vulnerable and maybe the most genuine videos that I do.
mm.
Mm.
And it's probably your genuine thoughts as well.
Yeah,
And one of the reasons why I've taken a step away from AI, and I'm not getting rid of it completely,
yeah,
but I realized I was getting to this point where I was just trying to over optimize and be like super efficient and super effective and use data for everything. And it was like, I just, one, it was exhausting.
yeah,
And two, I just want to get back to thinking like, okay, what do I actually think? Like, what do I actually believe rather than what I think my audience wants to see? Or do I want to do? repeat the same ideas. Um, and so that yeah, that process has been just to literally get really clear on what I think, and the journal has been a massive game changer for me. I've journaled for quite a while now, but
Yeah.
like you said, reset like the things that surface to the top consistently, like they're the things that you should speak about. And then if you can tell if you can do great storytelling and create content that allows that like they'll watch your content, they'll be like, you've literally articulated what I was thinking or what I said. Like
Mm.
that's when you know you've done a really good job. And I think that's the best kind of content when you're just super relatable and people can understand exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. Have you seen a change in that kind of content recently? Because for me, voiceover videos used to be something that would consistently get really good views for me and get a lot of reach. But now actually it's more raw stuff where I might have an idea. I might have the idea, and so then I'll think of the hook and I'll know where I want to end the video, but I just kind of just speak more naturally, you know? I'm not like really
Mm,
script. I'm not with the voiceover, obviously for people who are listening, it's like you'll script it all out first and then you'll read it into your phone or however you record, and so you might be able to make it seem natural the way you read it, but really you're reading off a script. For me, anyway, that's what I do. But when I'm
mm.
talking, if I just have the idea and I know kind of what I want to say, and I'm just speaking to my camera, that's always going to come off as more genuine. That's my kind of reason for why I
Mm.
think it does better. But I don't know. Have you had any experience with that?
I mean, now everyone's leaning into Yap. I think they're calling it Yap content,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like, because that seems to be a trend and it is easier to produce. However, I don't think that more scripted content is completely dead. And
no,
I think people should still lean into it. And the reason I say that, and from my own experience as well, is when I've scripted something, it's more well articulated, it's more formalized thinking. I like to think of it as formalized thinking because you take the time to write. Yes, you might use AI to help you along the way as well, but it just helps you expand on those ideas in a lot more depth
hmm
than if you were just yapping to the camera.
hmm
And so I really like the idea of both. And I think like sometimes like when you're yapping to a camera for 60 seconds, you can't really even if especially if you lack the skills like me, like I've learned through this process that I probably like yet lack the skills to just like uh speak well to a camera without any breaks or any pauses or anything like that. And so that's why I think more scripted verbal storytelling is great for that reason.
Yeah, exactly. It's just another tool as well, like we said before. It's like another tool you can use. You should try different formats. You should always stay creative because like there's always going to be something new that you can try, and you should. That's kind of the way that I think anyway that people stay motivated. It's like if I
Mm,
well, by me trying new stuff, it kind of takes out the monotony of what I do because once you've done this for years,
mm,
obviously there's some parts of it that get repetitive, and sometimes people say to me like, "Oh, I've run out of ideas. I don't have any ideas left." And I think that's not the case. I don't have ideas. I think it's just kind of like a motivation thing as well. It's like, okay,
mm.
maybe you don't have ideas, but you think you've told the same story over and over, or you've done it the same way over and over. So I think by being creative and trying new things is always a way to kind of keep your
Yeah.
motivation high.
There's always ways to come up with new ideas. Like every day something new will happen. If you just document your day to day every day and you reflect on like what happened, like what was the deeper meaning behind it and like what can others learn from it, like there's an idea in itself every day. Um, so
And
it's interesting.
no, sorry. No, I was gonna say because I'm just conscious of the time, but I want to get to the. I feel like I want to get through your story. What's the,
Yes.
so we went to. Sorry. Then you started building content, but then we were at the point where you were documenting your life, like building your dream life, leaving the 9 to 5, building your dream life. How did you end up? We're skipping forward a little bit, but how did you end
Mm.
up realizing? Okay, I want to help other people do the same. How did you end up realizing you want to be a coach?
Yeah, well, I actually had no idea what I wanted to do after leaving my job, so I was just documenting the journey. Yeah, and I had followers that were building up, but I wasn't making any money. I was literally just living off my savings, going traveling, and then it got to a point where I ran out of savings and I came back home to Australia. Uh, and I remember having a conversation with Louis actually, with Louis Armstrong, shout out. He said to me, he goes, "Chris, like you're a very good storyteller." And he said, why don't you monetize off that? Like you're clearly building a following and it's a very much in this storytelling based format. So why don't you offer a service where you teach people storytelling?" And so I thought, okay, like let's just give it a go. And I had no idea where to start, like how to build an online business or what to do. And I knew there were courses that you could do and that kind of thing. And I actually reached out to someone else in the Creator Club who helped me quite a lot with just like building out an offer. And so I started teaching storytelling. And it was literally just people who were following my journey. They liked my content and they're like, hey, like I want to create content like you as well. And so I started coaching people for free to start with.
Yeah.
And I was like, great, like I just want to help you across like, a few weeks and months, and I just want to get testimonials. And sure enough, I started coaching them and seeing them use the systems that I'd used on my own content to start growing their following. And that was, I guess, the start of me being like, okay, like I can actually build a business out of this.
Mhm.
And then eventually I ended up like charging for it and I started coaching officially my one-to-ones. And this was only from December last year. So that's probably 4 5 months ago.
Okay.
I started taking on my one-to-ones officially. And it's just been a journey since then. Like now I've been coaching them and helping them grow their following, but also like helping them monetize as well. Because when I think of my own journey, it's like, yeah, I left my corporate job to eventually go all in and build a profitable personal brand, not just a following.
Yeah.
And so now I'm helping others use storytelling to one, grow a following of their own that's aligns with their journey, but then monetize off their skills that they have as well, and I guess the journey that they're documenting.
And so, what is your offer? What does working with you look like?
So typically it's a one-to-one coaching. So I'll usually do 12 weeks to start and get some good results in those 12 weeks. Usually the primary goal for most people that come to me is to grow their following because
Mhm.
they're mostly just starting out creating content or they've been trying to create for a while and just do trial and error and do things by themselves and they're realizing it's not really working. So they need some guidance and some clarity and some accountability. And so those 12 weeks is, I guess, a transformation of growing their following and then realizing that, okay, they've now grown a following who are aligned with their ICP, their ideal customer profile. And so it's like, great, like now let's build out an offer for you. And so some of them now that I'm working with, we're now transitioning them to more like 6 to 12 month programs where I'm helping them now monetize off the following that they've grown.
Okay, amazing. And do they all like who are the people that are working with you? They're people they have their own businesses or age range, all this sort of stuff. Who are they?
Really interesting. It's people who are predominantly older than me. So I'm 29, but I've attracted an audience of people probably in their mid to late 30s,
Okay.
and they are predominantly in 9 to 5s or they are doing their own thing, like they're solopreneurs, they're online business owners. But I'd say most of them are 9 to 5ers. And it's probably because they've followed my content, they've resonated with my journey of leaving my 9 to 5, and they want to do the same thing. And so I've attracted that kind of audience. And so a lot of them are building their personal brand alongside their 9 to 5 with the idea of eventually leaving them and going full time.
Okay. Cool. Um, I think it's because, just from my perspective, I think you've attracted an older audience because you are quite introspective, and that's I
Mm,
be more. I don't know, like it depends on the type of person, but I think that generally in your 20s or when you're younger, you're not as introspective in what's the word?
introspective.
Introspective. Introspective, maybe a new word. Yeah, but you're not in general because it's you kind of like you're either on the rails or you haven't started thinking about what I actually want in life, or maybe you're a bit more immature. So I think that probably it makes sense that you would have the older audience, and also
Mm,
like for people listening, having an older audience is actually awesome because I mean, generally people who are older they're going to have a bit more cash to spend as well. So
yeah.
it's good that you didn't do it on purpose, but it's good that you've got this older audience because but when it comes down to it, like you're not just trying to build. Like, let's face it, you're not just trying to build a personal brand just to have followers for the vanity
Mm,
metric. You're trying to build something that's profitable, and so you don't sell you're not going to build something that's profitable by selling to a niche of people or to an audience that don't have the money to buy something from you or
mm.
in general. So it's maybe it wasn't intentional, but it's good, you know?
I think it's worked really well that I've gone after an older audience. Sometimes I reflect, I'm like, am I am I a bit too boring for people in their like late 20s? Because when I look at my insights, it is people in their kind of like 30s range, 30s, 40s who are following me. But
I'm gonna
to
look at
that
my
point on,
I'm looking at mine as you're talking. I am listening. Carry on. I just want to see what mine
yeah,
is.
yeah. But to that point, I have noticed with this one-to-one coaching experience
Yeah.
is if you attract people who really value investing in themselves, they'll pay the money.
Yeah.
And I actually, when I first started coaching, I was thinking of charging probably like more like a mid to low ticket. And I
Yeah.
had a sales coach with me who goes, "Nah, man, like coach high ticket." And what you do by doing that is you're attracting a higher caliber of audience who they value investing in themselves, but they're also committed to doing the work and they'll keep themselves accountable and they'll get you results as well. And
Yeah.
so it's something that I didn't even think of doing. I thought, oh, I'll just charge a lower amount and try and attract more people. But instead I've just like focused my efforts on fewer clients and getting them better results.
Yeah. More quality.
Mm.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, so I guess that 'cause I don't want to go over too much because I'm conscious of your time as well. I know in Australia that it's getting on a
Oh,
little
yeah,
bit,
that's
but
okay.
tell me like what's next for you. I think we could definitely do another one of these calls and kind of go into more stuff in the future. But
Mm.
what's next? So right now you've got your clients. You are you doing like brand deals or that sort of stuff too, or what? Or do you want to start something else, or are you just focused completely on the coaching? Or what?
I
I guess
thought about the
this
brand
is like
deal.
a personal brand, right?
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, the next 12 months is just expanding on what I've already been doing. I feel like I've gone through so much turbulence over the past 12 months. I need to, now that I've built a nice foundation,
Mhm.
just just stick to the basics, do the consistent work, and get really great results for my clients. Like, I think the primary thing for me is continue to get them really good results, continue to grow my personal brand, of course, and just scale out my business further. And I'm off to Bali in a couple of weeks. I know you. I think I saw a piece of content where you're not a big fan of Bali, but I'm going to be living there as well for a couple of months, two,
Yeah.
3 months.
Like,
And
I shit
so
on Bali, but I shit on Bali just because, like, I've been there many years ago and I just partied there, but it's just everything I see online now, I'm just like, "Oh," it's just like all the Bali bros, just like, I don't know.
I know it's it's going to be. I'm going to try and stay away from that.
It's probably amazing
Although
for
I realize.
yeah, it's probably amazing for networking, so I can't hate on it too much, but it's just the kind of the idea.
Yeah, I know, I know. So we'll see. I mean, I was in Bali last year as well, twice actually.
Mm,
But this year I'm going to be like more like living there, like locking in, like working
okay.
and living that lifestyle. And I guess I know it sounds like y- it's not like I've worked towards living the Bali life, but living in Bali is like a nice way to show that everything I've built now over the past year has afforded me location freedom to
Yeah,
work from wherever I want, which is one of my big goals. But the goal after that is like, okay, it's all well and good having location freedom, but I want to build myself more time freedom
mhm,
and more financial freedom and like find ways to just um, reduce the amount of time because I'm working quite hard. Like I'm doing a lot of work, a lot more work than I was in my 9 to 5. Um, but it's okay. Like right now, I'm okay with that because I know I'm building towards a future that is actually my future and my business. And so the goal is, like I said, just keep building out the business and just try and make it more profitable and have me working less hours so I can do the things that I love and while helping my clients in a fulfilling way.
yeah, no, it's amazing. No, as in, I'm only joking, by the way, when I'm shitting on Bali, it's just it's one of those. I think that ultimately, like most people want location freedom, financial freedom, all that sort of stuff as well. And like the whole,
Mm,
as we've touched on a couple of points in this conversation, it's like the whole point of building your personal brand and the whole point of building something for yourself is that you can do whatever the fuck you want to do. You know what I mean? That's the whole point, and that's why I think
mm,
one of the perfect guests to have on this podcast as well, because you're someone that, like me, I feel like I resonate with your story a lot because we weren't happy with something, we changed, We changed and took a big risk, and like so far it's paying off. But I think in my personal theory is it always pays off in some way, because you're never going to have that doubt in your mind about, oh, I should have done this, I should have done this. You took the chance, even like you said, even if you went back to Australia and
Mm.
you had to get a job. Well, whatever, like you gave it a shot. The worst case scenario is exactly what you had before anyway, which you kind of enjoyed. So it's like, okay, the worst
Mm.
case scenario is some people's like best case scenario. So for me, it's always worth taking that risk on yourself. And if anyone's listening, I want you to just go home with that idea. Like look at Chris. He's a perfect example of somebody who has taken this big risk on himself, done the work, both introspectively
Mm.
and outwardly in the world. And yeah, I think you're a great example, mate, of someone that's just like taking their life into their own hands. Anything you want to end on? Anything you want to plug before I do the outro?
No plugs. I mean, apart from my Instagram, yeah, just follow me, Chris Giles. But yeah, no, it's been really great chatting. And I just want to say that I had no idea what I was doing 12 months ago. All I knew is that I wanted to change. And honestly, just through action, like that is where all this clarity led to, speaking to the right people. And eventually you get there. And even if you feel a little bit lost initially, just continue to persist and like you'll get there eventually.
Amazing. Amazing. Nice one. I just realized that I mispronounced your name at the start of the podcast. I said Chris Giles, but it's Chris Giles.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Giles. Yeah, that's all good.
Sorry about that, brother. Okay, so if today made you think, I should be the outro. If today made you think that you want to build something by yourself, Community Builders is where I show you how. We've got a boot camp in there, but we also do one-to-one, we do group, we do all sorts of things. It's the first link in the bio, so go click it and see you in there. Boom.